All right, let's dive into today's top story. Let's talk about Ukraine. We've been following the money, of course, on this show for some time. And hey, U.S. Congress is back. They are back in action. I don't even know if that's right to say because they don't ever take any action. The only action they ever take is actually funneling money to Ukraine. So they're all across the board on that. Americans, meanwhile,
they're back in their offices taking advantage of their furniture budget. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, would they go at like a $75,000 furniture budget or something? Is that what they?
Last I knew, it was still $35,000. So somewhere in there. But still, they're in there sitting on their lounge chairs, taking advantage of that and tweeting what they're going to do.
Unbelievable. These guys are worthless, absolutely worthless. So they came back to work today to spend more money while Americans can't afford home heating oil right now. They're swimming in credit card debt. Americans are swimming in credit card debt. And inflation is an all-time high. Small businesses can't pay their rent. 41% of small businesses can't pay their rent right now. Take a look at this. They're going under. And of course, this is all part of the plan. Bidenomics, John Solomon calls it. 41% of small businesses can't pay rent this month. And look, this is part of the plan. They don't want small businesses in business. Remember the lockdown? Remember the COVID lockdown where it ran small businesses under to the tune, I think, of 700,000 small businesses? Read Carol Roth's amazing book, right? Which was, what was it called? The War on Small Business. I think that was the name of it. I think it was called The War on Small Business. How COVID crushed small. Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say a couple 100,000 businesses went out during COVID. And that's been my argument against the $15 federal minimum wage as well, because this is another ploy that big companies like Walmart, Target, the big giant companies can sustain that, can withhold that or withstand that $15 minimum wage. It's the small mom and pops that cannot. And those are the ones that are going out of business. The ones that, you know, like True Value Hardware and things like that, that we grew up in our neighborhood, those little tiny stores. And I watched a documentary where the executives of Walmart were driving through these areas and saying, we're going to put them out of business, them out of business, them out of business. So it's like these giant box stores can withstand all of this stuff, but the little people can't. And we're seeing them in mass numbers just disappear.
Yeah, and like you see Walmart running advertising right now. Like I saw a number of ads for Walmart over the weekend on different sportscasts, you know, like come to Walmart. You can get your dollar can go so much further at Walmart. Yeah, because we've helped run all these other businesses out. And it's not just Walmart's fault, of course. It's federal government's fault, right? So all these businesses going under, and we learn now that all of these businesses going under, people can't afford heating oil, people can't afford the rent, credit card debt is at an all-time high. We just learned that billions of dollars that we sent to Ukraine is lost. It's gone. We don't know where it is. So we've sent $91 billion. And this weekend we learned that the Biden administration is now admitting that it cannot find $20 billion of this money. $20 billion in Ukraine. Probably. I mean, personally, I don't even think they know where all of it has gone to begin with. They said 20 billion. I think it's probably more than that. But let's play along and say that they're just basically saying it's 20 billion. I know, look, maybe you call me a conspiracy theorist. That's fine. We've spent 91 billion there. I think they almost don't know where all of that is.
Do you know what I think they're sitting here saying that they've lost track of 20 billion. They haven't told us where any of it is gone, but what I think is happening is they've lost track of where it stopped going into their pockets. It stopped going into their accounts that they were putting it in over there, which means like probably some of the upper level Ukrainian people are stealing this money or something. Remember when Afghanistan, they had pallets of money and people were just walking in, taking cash out whenever they wanted to, just grabbing it. It's one of those things. Like they've lost track of it, getting tracked back to them is what's happening.
Well, and it's amazing they don't have an audit. I mean, Democrats, and by the way, Rand Paul was calling for an audit and Democrats fought it. What are you trying to hide? Like Rand Paul is saying, shouldn't we have an accounting so we don't repeat what happened in Afghanistan here? And Democrats said, no, we don't want to do that. We don't want to have an accounting. Well, I mean, what kind of a clown world are we living in? So we've sent 91 billion to Ukraine. We don't know where the 20 billion is, according to the Biden administration. And according to Fox News, Biden administration is scrambling to track the nearly 20 billion in military aid it sent to Ukraine as Republicans warn of impending audits when they take control of the House in January. Likely future House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has said his party will not be giving Ukraine a blank check. Right. You believe that? To fend off Zelensky. I've got a Tuscan village owned by Zelensky to sell you, if you believe that. A potential audit would determine how much, if any, of the U.S. aid is ending up in the wrong hands. The Biden administration's previous tracking efforts have inspected only a fraction of the aid provided to the country. The Republican push to ramp up oversight enjoys some bipartisan support in Congress. Some staunch Ukraine allies fear that the party will cut off aid to the country entirely, however, end quote. Now, the Washington Post also covering this story. Here's my favorite quote from a Democrat, from Jason Crow, let him eat crow, of Colorado. There he is. He says, taxpayers deserve to know that investment is going where it's intended to go. In any war, there can be missteps and misallocation of supplies. But where do the taxpayers think that this money is going? Where do they think that's going? Because you've never really told us where it's going. So they're sending in military aid, but they're also sending in all kinds of additional, like, humanitarian aid. Where is that going to? What is it? What exactly is that providing? You haven't told us. We'd like to know. Democrats, and then to blame it on war zones. But in any war, because we fight a lot of them, so I guess we would know, right? There can be missteps and misallocation of supplies. In any war, there can be missteps and misallocation of supplies. 20 billion? Like, I understand, like, losing a box of oranges. 20 billion though? You know?
And think about the amount of money that we've sent over there, right? They could be, if we're sending that over there for them to defend themselves from Russia, shouldn't there be like missiles and all this stuff going off every single day? Like, wouldn't we have video of this mass, like, preemptive attack or defense attacks or anything like that, rather than these little, things that they do where missiles land in Poland or whatever? Like, you would think you would see some kind of something happening with all that money.
Like, here are all of the U.S. tax dollar tanks that just arrived. Here are all the Stinger missiles that just arrived. Here's all of the Javelins that just arrived. Here's pallets of this. And I mean, we saw a lot of that in Iraq, right? Here are all the care packages that you're sending, right? They've just arrived here by aircraft. Like, here they are being unloaded and being transported and given out to the soldiers. And so we are fully capable. We are fully capable of documenting this stuff.
Yeah, that's propaganda candy for them. They would be happy to be able to show those videos, because then it's like people are like, yes, Ukraine is going to win. Like, that's like 101.
Yeah, here are U.S. tanks doing what they're doing best, right? But instead, take a look at some U.S. tanks. Many of the weapons we've sent have been sold on the black market, or they don't work, or that is a tank sunk in mud. Look at that. That's a U.S. tank. Videos are now surfacing showing American and NATO tanks literally just stuck in the mud. Can't do anything. Having to be hauled out. Look at that. There's your American tax dollars right there. Hard at work. I'm just going to take a smoke break here on this tank, because I don't know what else to do. This puppy won't move. Well, at least it's being protected right now, I guess. This is your American tax dollars. So it's not working. Our weapons are disappearing. They don't work, or they're sinking in the mud. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is demanding more money. He has been over the past few months. He's been ramping up. Recently, he tried to use the fake Polish Russia attack to drum up more money. That didn't work. But he's back at it again, asking in the United States and Western leaders for more money over the weekend. And here's just an example of him asking for these additional amounts of money, and it's going to be on the backs of taxpayers. Watch.
We have two key financial needs of the country. That's $38 billion to make up for the deficit of our budget for next year, and other $17 billion that were verified by the World Bank and needed to rebuild the critical infrastructure.
So one of those tanks, I'm saying, oh, that was a Ukrainian tank. Okay, funded by who? But the other one was a NATO tank, if I'm not mistaken, U.S. tank. If I'm not mistaken. But there's plenty of other videos now of U.S. equipment just sitting there inoperable. Humvees, you name it, just sitting there in warehouses. So, take your pick at this point. So Volodymyr Zelensky wants more. He wants more money. He wants more. He's like Cookie Monster. That's what I like to think about. Like, he reminds me of like Cookie Monster. Like, just give me, we'll take whatever. We'll take whatever. So where is all this money actually going?
Well, and really quick, have you ever watched him on
Do you follow him on Twitter, Zelensky?
I do. Well, I follow him on Telegram. Your microphone is really quiet. Oh, no. There we go. You back now?
Sorry. Oh.
Yeah, it's still really quiet. Now I can't hear you at all.
Okay, is that better?
Now it's better, yeah.
Okay. So I was saying, if you follow Zelensky on Twitter, every single tweet he makes is asking for money, asking for other countries to get involved and help. It's like, help me, help me, help me. Every single post.
It's like, I don't know. It's like he's like a televangelist or something, right? Like at the end of every broadcast, like just send us more money. L. Todd Wood has been talking about this. I've been following his work for some time on his website. And according to his intelligence sources, most of the money is being used by the corrupt Ukrainian officials to, I mean, God knows where, but at least some reports are that they're buying real estate offshore in faraway locations, basically to enrich themselves. Watch.
So this is, you got to realize, this is the varsity team of money launderers in Ukraine. We're estimating that only 30% of the supplies and military aid is actually getting to where it needs or is supposed to go. There's been evidence, which we talked about on your show recently, of a plane crash in Greece where arms were being shipped overseas. And so this money is not getting where it's supposed to go. A lot of this money is going to offshore. You know, we're talking about homes. You know, there's credible reports that a lot of these Ukrainian officials have bought property offshore. They don't want peace. They want the money train to continue for the defense contractors in the U.S. And I'm fascinated to see what's going to happen when the House gets taken over by the GOP, and hopefully this money train stops. So we'll see.
So now that's a good question. So now that Republicans aren't in charge of the purse strings in the House of Representatives, maybe we should stop sending countless buckets of money to the most corrupt nation in Europe. Just an idea, but it's not going to happen. Here's Mike Turner, Republican Mike Turner of Ohio, says that no one in the Republican leadership has called for an end to aid to Ukraine. So how about you guys do something about that? Maybe you guys grow some balls and tell your leadership that you're done sending money to corrupt Ukraine because people at home need help right now. How about that? And instead, this Republican no-balls politician doubled down on Sunday, on the Sunday shows, along with another eunuch, Mike McCall, to push for more military aid to Ukraine. Watch this craziness.
Joining me now are two congressmen who will have a key role in providing aid to Ukraine in the future, likely leading the national security committees when Republicans take control of the House in January. Congressman Michael McCall of the Foreign Affairs Committee and Congressman Mike Turner of the Intelligence Committee. Thank you both for being here. And I want to pick up where Colonel Milburn left off. He believes that there should be longer range weapons sent to Ukraine. Would you approve of that?
100%. He's absolutely correct. I mean, my criticism of this administration was before the invasion, we wouldn't put weapons in. And since the invasion, we've slow-walked this process. You know, first it was Stingers, then it was Javelins, then
Help people understand that. Those are missiles that don't go as far as the ones you think would solve the problem.
So what the problem right now is the Iranian drones are going into Crimea, and the Ukrainians can't hit those Iranian drones unless they have the longer-range artillery called the ATACMS. For some reason, I was with Secretary Austin at the Halifax National Security Forum. For some reason, they will not put those weapons into Ukraine. Martha, when we give them what they need, they win. And this could be not, it doesn't have to be
Does it further incite Russia if they do?
Well, Crimea is not part of Russia under international law. So if it can hit into Crimea, I think that's fair game. I think the problem is they don't want to be provocative, and we give them what they need. They win. If we don't, it's going to be a long, protracted war.
Yeah, the Biden administration doesn't want to be provocative. They've sent $91 billion. So you mean to tell me that the Biden administration has been slow walking this? I mean, it's laughable. So the criticism is from Biden that Biden didn't do enough? They've been in lockstep the whole time on this. They've been simpatico. There's been just a few voices like Marjorie Taylor Greene, just like a few people that have been saying no more money to this corrupt guy. They've all been in. So you have these Republicans doubling down on these Sunday shows saying once again, no, we're here. So guys, I don't care. I mean, I'm not a member of either party. I think they're both corrupt. And here's an example of it. You're watching it right on television. Oh, they can't hit targets in Crimea. So now that's the game. We're going to take back Crimea in 2023. because I'm sure you heard reports of that floating around this in the past 24 hours. So McCall, who will likely head the Foreign Relations Affairs Committee in next Congress, also called for the Biden administration to send longer-range weapons to Kiev. He says, we need these longer-range weapons. The Biden administration needs to pull the governor off of this and give them the heavy weapons now. So start cranking up the cash and get it out there so that the U.S. is ready to tune billions of more dollars and break previous records that we've been sending. I mean, when will this craziness stop? It's time. I mean, this is unbelievable. And as Jirwasam in the chat and a Rumble chat says, both sides play good cop, bad cop. It's insane. Yes, they do. That's a very astute comment on our Rumble chat because they both want the same thing, right? And that's good cop, bad cop. They both want the same thing, which is the military-industrial complex to be enriched, right? They want an extension of NATO. They want to show world power and continue the U.S. hegemony around the U.S. dollar. And so both parties want that. And they're going to do it with military might. So they can kind of play good cop, bad cop back and forth. I love that.
When we used to cover the stimulus checks, like we would see how they fought tooth and nail to send us money. Like it was always, we can't. There's a reason we can't. There's a reason we can't. But it's always bipartisan when it comes to war. Not one person, aside from a couple of Congress people, even say a word.
Yeah. No, no one stands out. I mean, again, Marjorie Taylor Greene is probably the only one. And
Justin Amash also.
That's true. Yeah. But you have what's amazing. She's supporting Kevin McCarthy, and she's saying, this is why Kevin McCarthy should be the next Speaker of the House. I throw my support behind him. We'll see. I mean, if Kevin McCarthy actually pulls back on this blank check, we'll see. Or is he just another piece of the military-industrial complex, another part of the swamp? Is Kevin McCarthy? We'll see. But show me, prove it to me. Words are cheap. Talk is cheap. Mr. Bond, tell me the truth.